Mr. Ciscomani, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary Rubio, for being here, and thank you for your words, especially at the beginning when you're describing and through the questions on your fast and, I would say, intentional actions in restructuring, refocusing the department and its true mission of expanding American interests around the world. I think that is exactly what we should have been doing for a long time, and you're definitely getting there very, very quickly. I'll start off with this. I represent Arizona's 6th Congressional District, which is along the U.S.-Mexico border. First, I'd like to state how impressed I am with how fast the administration has been able to combat the transnational criminal organizations and secure our southern border. However, low border encounters by CBP, our fentanyl crisis continues to ravish many of our communities across the country still. How is your budget request going to prioritize programs for counter-drug initiatives and border security, particularly with relation to fentanyl?
Well, we've remained very committed, especially, we've preserved the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement at the Assistant Secretary level. That's underneath the broader new directory that we've built on the Undersecretary for International Security. And it's a top priority for many of our partners. I can give you a few examples of places where we think we can make a difference. First, let me say, in full concession, the Mexican government has been probably more cooperative and forward-leaning than at any time that I can recall in my 15 years here for a couple of reasons. But one, because I think they, too, identify the cartels as a threat to their government and their national stability. There are parts of Mexico today that are governed by drug cartels, and they recognize the threat that it poses. But I think it's also, and by the way, if you go all down Central America, country after country, the primary threat they face in Ecuador, in Costa Rica, in Panama to some extent, certainly in Guatemala, is the threat of these transnational organizations that use their countries as transfer routes, and which we seek to help them develop the capability to partner with us and disrupt, and that'll be a priority. In the Caribbean basin, that's also been an issue of grave concern. But primarily what we hear there, one of the things we're working on now with the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the ATF, is how can we disrupt the flow of illegal gun shipments, primarily leaving the Miami River in containers, embedded among other things, that's finding its way into the hands of Haitian gangs, gangs in Trinidad, gangs in Jamaica. That's also destabilizing the region in those countries. And what they want, if you talk to our embassies and you talk to those governments, is for us to help them build the law enforcement capacities so that it's foreign aid that ends, because one day they will have the capacity to disrupt it. The Dominican Republic is currently seeking radar systems to be able to detect boats and planes that may be coming to their shores, because they become a very attractive place to bring drugs through, because it quickly can from there be shipped into Puerto Rico, and at that point has entered the U.S. and crossed our border. So I think this is an example of where embassy and regional-based policymaking will help us to identify the critical capacity needs that each individual country gets, and then drive our assistance based on what they need, as opposed to what we think they need.
That's great to hear, especially on the, and I agree with you on the, we've talked to Coast Guard about that, about the interdictions also of drugs across the ocean. And what you mentioned about the Mexican government, I agree with you. I've worked on that issue for a while, and I've seen a very open willingness from them. I think it's a win-win for both countries to be able to tackle that. In the little time that I have left, and you already covered some of this, I was going to bring up also the situation with the hostages and the interactions with Hamas there, and the hostages remaining, especially the 4 Americans. Israel has successfully destroyed much of Hamas terror capabilities, but the group is not yet defeated, and all hostages are not free. You talked a bit about that, so I'll focus my question really on UNRWA. And does the administration support the continued prohibition on funding of UNRWA? And is the administration working with others in the international community to design an alternative to UNRWA as well that meets the needs of all Palestinians without perpetuating the conflict?
We do oppose working with UNRWA. And in fact, that's exactly what we're working on, is finding alternative mechanisms to deliver aid that doesn't find its way into the hands of Hamas, where they steal it and in some cases resell it at exorbitant prices to people that are hungry and suffering. And in many ways is the grip they had Now, you know, on the population there as well. One of the things they use to be able to control population is their ability to steal this. And in some cases, they weren't stealing it. They had people inside the organizations that were cooperating with them. We do need to find alternative mechanisms. And there are some that exist that are independent of UNRWA that are out there. And so we, like I said, we've put out some proposals. We're open to any proposals that exist that provide assistance and aid, especially if we can get to a peacetime posture to help rebuild that does not help a group like Hamas benefit or restart and grow again.
You're right on that. Of over $1 billion stolen in the last 18 months on that. So I'm glad you're on it, and I trust you. We're going to get that done. So thank you, sir, for your time today, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.